Well, thank you for taking time tonight to join me here and help me out. I know it's been a long day for all of us, uh, so thank you for helping me out. So I'll just present this to you. It's a problem I feel here in the country, and present to you the issue and two proposed solutions for it, and which one I think is better and why. And then at the end, if you have any questions, feel free to ask away. And so we'll begin. So the problem that I feel is an issue and needs to be addressed is gas prices. I know I filled it up the other day and it was $3.05 a gallon, and it's better than it was a year or so ago when it was over $4, but it's terrible compared to what it was a decade ago. It's still hovering around $1. So it's a big issue that impacts Americans on a daily basis. And a poll that was done by Lydia Saad, who's an editor at Gallup, which is an online survey poll website, public opinion, 53% of Americans that responded said that they have had to make a major change in their personal life based on the rising gas prices. That was done back in 2012, so it's only a couple years ago. So obviously it affects all Americans at some level, whether that change be cutting back on vacations or carpooling, cutting down transportation, or even some of them reported that they spend less on groceries and stuff like that. So it has impacted Americans. So I plan on discussing a little bit more about the issue and the solutions I have, and which one I think is better. So as I said, the problem, gas prices much higher than they should be, than they used to be, and again, it's forced people to change their daily lives, and that's the negative impact it's had. But a common misconception with the public is why the prices are so high. Now, there's three main factors that go into the prices of gas, and that is payment to the oil companies, Wall Street, and road tax. Now, road tax in Pennsylvania is 50.6 cents per gallon, which is one of the highest road taxes in the country. Each state imposes their own road tax. In Pennsylvania, that goes to fund highways and bridges. That's all it's claimed to be used for. And that has risen, I think, about 20% in the last 3 years. Now, that still leaves $2.50 missing, roughly, which is split pretty evenly between going to the oil companies, which most of them are overseas in foreign countries that some of them are our enemies, to be honest, and the other half of the price is because speculators on Wall Street trading commodities such as crude oil, which is one of the hot commodities, and they're trading for 20 years down the road for the future oil that we don't know, if it's going to come from Saudi Arabia or Iraq, or if it's going to come from Canada or the U.S. We don't know, but they're trading it, and that speculation causes the price to rise. So it's another big issue that unfortunately is one that can't really expect to see change. So these prices, something needs to be done to reduce the prices to take the financial burden off of the majority of the American public. And if not, it's going to keep increasing and keep becoming harder and harder to afford gas. So I have two proposed solutions. So the first one is to decrease the amount of gasoline consumed by Americans, and in my opinion, the best way to do that is to increase funding and increase the use of other fuels or power sources, mainly electric, hydrogen fuel cells, and natural gas. From David Fessler, who is a energy and infrastructure expert for Investment U, which is a website that posts daily blogs and newsletters and whatnot. He has reported that America uses 25% of fuel that is produced per day, which is 85 million barrels of oil per day. America uses 25%. It's about 21 million barrels. And now of that, 70% of that goes into transportation. 14.7 million barrels per day are in transportation alone. And now, out of what we use, going back to the 21 million barrels used, 16 million barrels of that, about 75%, we import, which means money is going overseas, money is going to our enemies. So that's a problem. So in order to limit that, have the proposal for new fuel types, new energy types, and so that will cut down on the cost required to drive a car, paying less for gasoline, all the other energy sources, while in the short term may not seem like they will save money, long term they'll be very beneficial. So there's different manufacturers out there that have produced different types of cars like this. Electric vehicles are out there, hybrids are out there, of course, but hybrids, in all honesty, do not really cut down gasoline use because the batteries use the electric motor, but it still requires a gasoline for about 90% of use in a hybrid. So they really do not cut down. It's a good start, but it's not where we should be and where we need to be. So the technology is there for these fuel cells. It requires a little more funding. You need to get it up to standards, but the technology is there. The problem is the demand from the consumers is not there to drive the market. Buses that run on hydrogen fuel cells, buses that run on natural gas, they're there. But we need the demand from the consumers, the demand in the market, to drive up and increase in order to fully see it take shape. So how quickly can this take place is all up to the American consumer. How quickly can the public go out and buy these different types of fuel, and how quickly can the manufacturers, whatever the provider is for the energy, how quickly can they get up to today's modern standards? That's how quickly it can change. Now, the second solution, however, is to use oil reserves here in the United States. We have some of the largest oil reserves known here in the United States. And then if you add in just North America, that number increases. Under the Rocky Mountains is estimated to be the largest oil field in North America and possibly one of the largest, if not the largest, on the planet. Here under the Rocky Mountains, Colorado, Utah, going right down. Also, the Gulf of Mexico has multiple oil reserves that are all, very large, very rich of oil that we've tapped into, but not nearly to the potential of it. So how will that fix the problem, though? We're still relying on oil. However, the money, first of all, is staying inside the United States. Second of all, we're not paying to import it. So it will decrease, but it will not decrease, to the value of where we really need to see it happen. So the cost on that will be minimal to almost nothing on the American public, the American consumers. It's all on the oil companies to get the ball rolling and get in to these oil reserves and start tapping into them. And time frame on this solution is probably about the same as last one. You really can't put a number on it. It requires the oil companies to go ahead, go in, tap it, and then transport the crude. It needs to be refined and then taken to gas pumps. So those are the two solutions. Now, strengths and weaknesses of each. They each have their own. Like I said, both solutions, both have some real strong points. Both have some weaknesses that really pull it down, though. In terms of cost, solution is better when you look at it from the American public standpoint because you're paying little to most likely nothing to tap into the oil reserves. It's not going to be a financial hardship, financial burden to the American public. Timescale, neither one really has an edge. It both requires manufacturers, companies, big companies to get the ball rolling. to get on top of things. Neither really has an edge there. Both will be beneficial once they get going. And finally, solution one, in my opinion, is better economically, environmentally, obviously, because you're cutting down the gasoline, ozone, greenhouse gases, stuff like that. Also, touching back into the different types of fuel, natural gas. I was actually just reading something the other day. I didn't have it for this, but the natural gas supply we have in the U.S. currently will last us for a couple hundred years, based on proposed what would be consumed if you convert what we use now in gasoline to natural gas. However, where gasoline as a fossil fuel, crude oil as a fossil fuel, takes thousands of years to develop so it can be refined and extracted from the ground, natural gas can replenish itself very quickly. And it is estimated, nothing's confirmed because we're not tapping into it enough, but it's estimated that even if 75% of vehicles in America ran on natural gas, we would still have more supply than we would be using, because it replenishes itself that quickly. So because of that, I believe solution one is better. We can tap into our oil reserves, but once it's gone, it's gone. Whether it's in North America, whether it's in the U.S., whether it's overseas, once the crude oil is gone, it's gone, and it's not going to be replenished. So that's my opinion on the current issue of high gas prices, and two solutions that I believe are both feasible solutions, both ones that would help. Why I believe solution one is better. In my opinion, unless something is done, gasoline prices will start to rise again and will continue to rise until a solution is finally found, at least short term, to hold it off until a long-term solution is found. Again, I believe that finding new energy sources, new fuel types, whether it be electric or natural gas or hydrogen fuel cells or whatever, is the best way to solve this problem, best way to go. And in my opinion, many Americans, as said, 53% had to cut down spending somewhere. And the fact that some of them reporting having to cut down groceries, to me, is a big problem, because Americans should not have to starve themselves so they can afford gas. Thank you. You guys have any questions? Yeah. Okay, if that couldn't be heard, my dad asked about what products are currently out there that for alternative fuel types. I know Chevy makes the Volt, which is electric. With electric, my understanding is you are able to get different charging settings almost. You can charge it, this setting, this setting, this setting, and each one will either give you a better charge or charge it quicker at a lower charge. You got to trade off. Either you can get farther or you can charge faster. It's your trade. Big problem with electric is they don't have a very big range, and it's almost impossible to find a charging port for it outside of what would be installed in your home, garage, whatever. Hydrogen, I'm really not aware of anything commercially out there hydrogen-wise. Natural gas, though, I know buses in a lot of cities have really pushed to convert to natural gas. It's been a big thing that have been pushed by companies to save money and eco-friendly, stuff like that. So I know there is a real big push for that. It's about the best answer I can give you. I'm really not sure electrically what is out there besides the Volt. It's not something that I ever have been real interested in looking into. It's electric vehicles by themselves have a long way to come to get up with the modern world, and a lot of money needs to be put into funding and research for that to happen. And I think, in my opinion, that's the biggest holdup right now, why we haven't gone farther with electric. Um, so that's that. Any other questions, guys? No? Okay, well, again, thank you for helping me out here, listening to my speech. Looks like I didn't put anybody to sleep, even though it's pretty late and we had a long day, but thanks again.